feel like I should maybe start this off with a bit of a disclaimer. This might be a little bit cringe. I don't think there's any way around that. Certainly not something I ever thought I'd see myself doing. Probably not going to be that natural behind the camera, at least to start, but bear with me. Hopefully as I do more of these, I'll get a little bit better at it. But some of you might have seen on my personal Instagram account recently, if you follow me, that I asked my followers if they would enjoy seeing something that is a little bit of a behind the scenes into the process I've been going through and trying to make it as a published author. I've learned loads of interesting things during the process about the industry, things that I didn't really know even existed before. I've learned probably more about handling rejection than I ever wanted to learn.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
But I thought it might be interesting to share a bit of insight from that because it genuinely is a really interesting industry, and I think a lot of people have this dream of being a published author, but there's some sort of mysticism around the industry itself and it can seem entirely impossible to break into. I got a few replies saying, yeah, people would find that interesting. So I took that and then I did nothing with it. Partly because being in front of a camera, as I said, is not something that comes naturally to me, and partly because I have really no idea how all of this works. I don't know how to edit or write a script for this or really any process of it. I bought a ring light, which is lighting me up right now, and I feel like that's a good start. But, you know, I was also a little bit scared, perhaps naturally, that this was going to come off as a little bit narcissistic. I mean, who would want to learn about breaking into the writing industry from somebody who hasn't actually achieved that yet? There's so many people out there, industry professionals, authors, publishers, agents who provide free videos online that you can go watch with much more experience of the industry, much more knowledge, and definitely you should be watching those as well if this is something that you're interested in. And I can't attest to having any of that experience. So I was a little bit too embarrassed to really do this. But earlier today, I watched a video by a YouTube creator called Gabby Bell. She recently put out a video talking about how we're living in a time where we're a little more accepting of taking risks to show our authentic selves, to express ourselves. We're kind of celebrating that authenticity in people. I think people are more accepting now of those who are putting themselves out there, who take risks and believe in themselves. I mean, if you look at how popular certain hobbies have become in just the past few years, hobbies that were maybe traditionally considered at the fringe of culture, you're talking, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. That has become so massive. You go on Instagram, it's people collecting Pokemon cards and the prices of that has gone through the roof. I just think people are embracing who they are and there's less of that knee-jerk reaction to be like, well, I know that to be something that should be embarrassing. People are now more accepting of those who decide to live a bit more authentically, who decide to put themselves out there and take risks and really just show what they love doing. And like some of these things are kind of cringe, or at least they used to be, but that's okay. It's kind of comforting to see somebody doing that online, being a little bit cringe. You feel that actually it's all right to just enjoy whatever it is you enjoy without really caring too much about all the stigma that may come with it. The world isn't going to end because you put yourself out there, and maybe even the majority of people thought it was embarrassing that you were doing so. And I found this weirdly inspiring. It made me think, you know what, who cares? Someone may actually find this helpful, or at the very least mildly entertaining. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get over myself and I'm gonna just do it. So I wanted to come on to why I'm making this video. As some of you might already know, a few years ago I decided to pursue a passion of mine, which was writing, to pursue breaking into the industry, trying to get something published with really no prior experience or knowledge. I love writing, always have loved writing. I've actually always thought I'm a pretty good writer. There's not many things that I'm
willing to say that, you know, about myself.
And yet for a long time I didn't really try. The whole publishing world was just this impenetrable, unknowable entity. Then I hit 30, realized that actually if I was going to make it in writing, that was something I was going to need to pursue myself. I was actually going to need to take some steps to make it happen. Now I'm 32. At the end of last year, I finished my novel, which is just shy of 90,000 words. I'm currently working on a new project, and I've learned a lot about writing and about the industry, but also maybe more importantly for this, about what it's like to have a normal, busy life and then still try to pursue what is quite a difficult thing at the same time. Because I have a 9-to-5 job, I have responsibilities, I have other hobbies and commitments, and they're all there vying for the same amount of time. So it can be really hard to find the opportunities or even the headspace to then put in what is actually quite a lot of work, a lot of emotional investment sometimes, a lot of mental capacity to do something in addition to everything else that you're having to do throughout the day. And fitting writing around life can be really difficult. Sometimes I'll get 20, 30 minutes after work and I'll be sat at my desk looking at the blinking cursor thing on my screen and it just won't go anywhere. On other days, I'll have the time to take my laptop to a coffee shop and crack out 2,000 words. And that's great. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all. You know, I'll get home from work and I'm tired, or, you know, I want to go see some friends, and it's just not going to happen at all. And that's, you know, that's fine too. And that's something that you have to learn to be okay with. And look, I know I have it way easier than a lot of people. Often I'm working 8 until 4, which gives me an extra few hours in the evening. I don't have kids to look after, but even still, it can feel like a juggling act, keeping it all going at the same time. And, you know, writing, and I'm sure it applies to whatever your passion is, whether that is, you know, painting, music, crocheting, whatever it is, sometimes you just don't have anything left in the tank at the end of the day to sit down and do that. Why am I saying all this? Well, because I think it's maybe a voice that you don't hear too much. You got people like Brandon Sanderson putting up his entire lecture series on creative writing on YouTube to watch for free, and you absolutely should, because it is amazing. And these people know their stuff way better than I do. But sometimes I think it could be refreshing to have that like candid look at what it's like to be somebody on the outside who's struggling to make it in the industry, because that's where a lot of people are. Not many people have the opportunity or the money to quit their jobs to get a cabin in the woods for 6 months and really work on their craft. They don't have the money to go back to university and do courses in something like creative writing. And then a lot of people, I think, write themselves off because of that, because they are just getting the advice from people who have made it, and you feel like you're in a different class of people, or you're not in the right position. But you know, that kind of sucks. Like, we all, no matter what point in our life we're at, we have important things to say, even if there's no one really around to hear it except for ourselves. You know, you don't have to write or make music or whatever it is to have it published and make money off of it, but it is really a powerful thing to just do it for your own sake. You can write terrible poetry that you don't ever expect anyone to read, but there's something that is rewarding in giving yourself the space to be able to do that. So that's my hope, that maybe it's a little less intimidating when you're hearing it from someone who also is at the start of the journey, who is still making mistakes, still learning, because this is the place I'm at right now, and it's a place that's easy enough to get to. You can make a start. It doesn't have to be perfect straight away. It's a risk you can take, and you deserve to take if you want to. The point is, there's a lot of perceptions around trying to make it in the creative industries, and that puts a lot of people off. And yeah, deciding to take yourself seriously in something that you are passionate about, that, you know, might take years to get to a place where you want to be, that is really scary stuff. Like, that is scary. Trying to believe you have a chance to make it when you only get an hour spread out across the work week to actually try, it's scary, but it's not impossible. And as difficult as it is, it's worth doing. It's worth going through those ups and downs and all the self-doubt that's probably going to keep resurfacing through the process, that imposter syndrome, the worries that, you know, you're just like one of those contestants on the X Factor that they used to get on who was terrible at singing, and they just put them in front of the camera just so that people can laugh at them, you know. And the X Factor contestant has no idea how bad they are. They think they've got what it takes, but really we're just using them as something to laugh at. Sometimes it can feel like that, and I don't think it will really ever go away. Maybe for some people it will. I think for a lot of people it would never really go away. But if you keep telling yourself, who cares if I'm not good enough to do it, I'm going to do it anyway, at the end of that process, you're going to have created something that is meaningful to you, that you can feel proud of. And then you can say to yourself, wow, you know, despite all those circumstances, the lack of time I had, I was still able to push past all of my self-doubt and actually see this project through. Of course, once you've created the thing, you know, if you want to make it professionally, that's far from the end of the process. You've then got like the process I'm at now with the first project, where you have to query agents. But I can talk more about that whole process in another video, because it is a part of the industry that I had kind of no idea even existed, and it's really interesting to learn about. But you know, you've created this piece and then you're having to put it out there, and there's that additional cocktail of having really high hopes for yourself. You know, you're still feeling proud of what you achieved, but then you also might have this complete self-doubt that it's ever going to get picked up, maybe even a little bit of self-loathing. There's definitely times, you know, I've been sending stuff out and I keep thinking, why have I even bothered to do that? Like, this work is not good enough to be picked up. Why would I ever think it was? I think that's natural, and they give you a lot of time to feel that way, because you can send off your manuscript to an agent and it kind of goes into this void. You won't get a response for 6 to 8 weeks, during which time you're thinking, oh, I should have changed this line, I should have done this. And then in my personal case, you know, I've sent out about 10 agent queries and I've received so far 10 rejections, which is, you know, it's hard not to take that personally. It's hard not to think like, this was the best I could do, but it still isn't good enough. And again, I don't want to go off topic too much in this video, so I'll save that for another time. But here's the thing I'm trying to hold on to. The thing that hopefully does tie into the whole theme of this kind of rambly video. Believing in yourself doesn't mean you have to be confident all the time. It just means being stubborn enough to keep going even when you're not feeling confident. And hopefully, the more you do that, the more you push past that feeling of awkwardness, push past the feeling of self-doubt, or the questions you might have over whether what you're doing is just plain narcissism. Hopefully, the easier it gets to just do what you have to do to achieve what you want to achieve. So this has gone on way longer than I planned already. I did want to give you a super quick glimpse of what a few days of writing looked like for me, starting earlier in this week. Last week, I had really bad burnout. I was completely demotivated, didn't want to do any writing at all. So maybe next week is not the best place to start, but we'll keep going after that so you can get an idea of, sometimes I just don't get stuff done. I did write a 90,000 word book anyway, which sure, it maybe took me a while, but I'm a bit of a slow writer. I edit as I go along, and I did that, and I've done the 20,000 of my next project, all whilst having weeks where I didn't do any writing at all. And the hope is you can see that and be like, okay, so it's possible. So that didn't happen. Actually, because I had the week off just to be at home, I ended up having a lot of spare time and kind of got a lot of work done, so it didn't really feel like it was following the theme and the message of this video, which was already getting way too long and rambly. I actually wanted to refilm the whole video because I don't really think I made the points that I wanted to make, at least in any coherent sense. But I was going to do that today, and then I got this beast right in the middle of my nose, so I didn't really feel like being in front of the camera. What I've done instead is I've started to make a series of reels, which I'll link down there. I'm gonna try to make one most days. I'm not gonna be able to do it every day, just to show what I've been up to in that day and realistically how much I get done. Because if I showed you the week that I've just been through, you'll see I had 4 or 5 hours a day just to be writing emails and to be editing and writing new chapters, and that is not representative of what I can usually achieve. So I thought this would be a better format. In the rest of the video, I'm gonna be talking as if you've just watched a week in my life. Just ignore that. If you want to see what it actually looks like when I am at work, go to the Instagram Reels. You'll get a much better view of it there. Okay, disclaimer over, back to the video. So that's what a few days looked like for me. I will try today. I'm about to get a train back to Cheltenham. I'm in London right now. Hopefully I'll get some writing done, but I don't know. I do feel burnt out still, so maybe I'll leave it for today. I really don't know. But if you've made it this far, thank you, truly. I hope this was worthwhile. It'd be cool to make more videos in the future to get better at this. I do have ideas for possible videos, the process of finding and reaching out to literary agents, how to deal with rejections, maybe something about finding local creative writing groups. I'm a member of a number of creative writing groups in the area. I started one at work, which I think is still going, although I haven't had the time to actually attend it for the past year. But if there's anything else that you're interested in hearing about this process, do let me know. It would be really cool if this became something a bit more, something that I can actually invest in getting some better equipment and hopefully even build up something of a community, no matter how small. I'd love to hear your feedback. If I'm looking in all the wrong places, let me know. If you think I should be holding like a microphone like a lot of YouTubers do, if that would make this more engaging, let me know. I would really like for this to be a conversation. So send me a message if you've watched this, or stick a comment on the video. I mean, I'll admit I'm very nervous about doing this. I'm very nervous about posting it. I don't really know if it's gonna chime with anyone, but if it does, if you have enjoyed this, please do let me know. That's it for today. I'm excited to keep sharing stuff as I'm going through this process and giving you an insight into it. Even if one person finds it useful, if it can inspire somebody to realize that actually they've been putting it off because it's been too intimidating, but if I can do it, you can do it, and then they give it a go, that's an awesome result for me. I'd be really happy with that. Thanks for watching. Bye.